Dearest friends, in honour of the final episode of the Kaijusaurus Podcast, your beloved Kaijusaurus boys would like to cordially invite you. Please sit down, make yourselves comfortable, choose your poison, snacks, drinks, or whatever else it is you want. Join us. However, we shall be enjoying a very fine, very nice, cool glass of Prosecco, which I'm about to open now. Oh. Woo! It's the Kaijusaurus Podcast.
This is the Kaijusaurus Podcast, the one and only podcast in which a lifelong fan of kaiju films watches and reviews the 30 plus films in the Godzilla series with a blank slate / newbie. I am Steven Sloss, the lifelong fan, and pouring the drinks is
Roz Menzies, newbie.
Gives a wee snifter there.
Well, there you go, a wee toot of Prosecco.
There we go.
Now, it's very important with Prosecco that you really enjoy that first glass, because that's when it's at its most fizzy. And that's going to get you drunkest quick.
Chin chin.
Chin chin, Stephen. And chin chin, everyone else.
Very unsatisfying.
Yeah, these are not
Cheers.
satisfying glasses to clink.
No, there we go. Oh well. Cheers.
Imagine a really hearty clinking of glasses. I'm sure it was nice. That's definitely £7 Prosecco.
Your finest £7 Prosecco, please.
So,
this is, as you know, our final episode, and we're not going to take it all somber, etc. We're just gonna, as we like to think we've done throughout our almost 3-year run. We're just gonna have fun with it.
Yeah.
We're gonna start off with a discussion of Shin Godzilla, capping off our film discussions, and then from then on, we'll just reflect,
talk, discuss.
Look to the future.
We'll hear back from all of you. You've sent us lots of nice letters, emails, Q&As, things like that.
You certainly have, yeah. There's many more than I anticipated. So, yeah.
Let's do it.
Here we are.
So we popped Shin Godzilla on.
We did.
Just to rewatch. And obviously we have talked about it before, sort of last year, or about a year ago.
We talked about Shin Godzilla quite substantially in our, if I remember right, February 2017 episode, which was us talking about the Shin Godzilla screening at Glasgow Fright Fest.
Yes.
So we've also dipped in and out of basically Shin Godzilla discussion for like the past year and a half now.
Yeah, basically the podcast is split between post and pre-Shin. And all post-Shin Godzilla films are within that context. And of the 30 plus films in the Godzilla canon are now in the context of both the first film and the last film.
I think almost every film we've reviewed since Shin came out, we've compared it in some way.
Either we go, oh well, it's not, it's never going to be the first one. Now it's also, well, it's never going to be Shin Godzilla, but it was pretty good.
You're not fucking wrong. So yeah, we're not gonna. It's not gonna be a hugely meaty film discussion, but we're gonna do it.
We're gonna do it.
So here we are.
We had to do it to him.
We did indeed. So yeah, Shin Godzilla 2016, the revival of Toho's incarnation of the Big G, directed by Hideaki Anno and Shinji Higuchi, both known as, well, obviously Anno more so, but the masterminds behind a little cartoon called
a Looney Tune,
a little merry melody called Neon Genesis Evangelion. It's Evangelion.
Oh, I see. I see.
I'm doing the Robin Williams pronunciation.
Evangelion.
Neon Genesis Evangelion. You seen 1 Hour Photo?
I've not seen it, but I've seen that clip.
Yeah.
And I know that Robin Williams apparently was quite
proper into anime, yeah.
Anime and manga.
I'm sure he would have liked this film.
Yeah.
So Shin Godzilla. Toho's Godzilla franchise is revived after 12 years away, following 2004's Godzilla Final Wars. And to contextualise the production of this film, I touched upon this in my article that I wrote for Glasgow Film Fest. I said that the revival of Toho's Godzilla and the appearance of this film was not a competitive statement aimed at, one-upping Gareth Edwards' movie from 2014 or saying, this is how it should be done, which, let's not beat about the bush, is absolutely what Godzilla 2000 was to the Roland Emmerich movie. As much as I love 2000, it was absolutely a reaction piece.
Yeah, it was a response.
It was saving face. It was saving. Yeah, but this, I truly don't believe Shin Godzilla is that. I think Toho maybe had a kick up the arse a bit, saying, oh shit, we're no longer the only ones who can make good Godzilla films. Mm-hmm. Although apparently Shin Godzilla was in production for years longer than we know.
Right. So it could have been kind of concurrent.
Yeah.
Out of curiosity, do you know how 2014 Godzilla did in Japan?
Do you mean what?
Gareth Edwards, the...
Yeah, no, I mean like...
Or
did you get
critically...
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Because who gives a shit about
yeah.
box office taking? Anyway.
Me, it's the only way to recognise if a film is good or not.
We're in a fucking age now where if a film doesn't make $1 billion, it's a failure.
Yeah.
God almighty. Fucking... Anyway. Fucking... Yes, Godzilla 2014 was pretty well received in Japan. It was well received. I remember hearing a story about a lot of like Toho higher ups watching it, and I believe Gareth Edwards was there. And at the end, one of them turned and thanked him for bringing back the Godzilla of his childhood.
Oh, that's great.
And yeah, apparently a lot of Japanese fans were surprised, pleasantly surprised with Godzilla 2014 that his characterization in that movie so closely matched how he was in like the 60s and 70s.
Mm-hmm. Kind of cheeky chappy.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, that movie was well received in Japan. And
possibly led on to Shin Godzilla, but not strictly, not 100%, but certainly contributed to an attitude where Godzilla's back on people's consciousness.
Godzilla's back on like a global scale. Like I say, while I'm saying I absolutely do not see this as a reactionary piece. It's definitely Toho saying the brand is back. It would be stupid of us.
We're back, baby.
Not to do something, but then at the same time, it's not just a quick rush job to capitalize on the resurgence in popularity, because you don't get Hideaki Anno to direct your movie if that's what you want.
No.
And yeah, so what we've ended up with is Shin Godzilla.
So we've both seen this movie. We got to preface that. I've seen this movie before because we talked about it.
Yeah, we've both. I mean, I've seen it loads of times.
Yeah,
you've seen it like at least twice before this. I think I know we've watched it twice before together.
Well, yeah, you showed it to me because we were in the mood to watch it, and we said, "Fuck the podcast canon. We're going to watch this film."
If I remember right, we were meant to watch Godzilla versus Biollante and record an episode on that, but we both
couldn't be bothered.
Yeah, we couldn't be fucked. So I was like, "Hey, Shin is available to watch."
In some manner.
And we did. We had a great time.
And then we had the opportunity to watch it on a cinema screen. At Fright Fest.
Which is how it demands to be seen.
So I think with this discussion, I think we can kind of skip our usual sort of context in terms of chatting through the synopsis.
Sure,
Godzilla strikes. We follow Japan's government as it deals with the crisis in almost real time over 3 or 4 days. We're deep in government ministry. We're deep in political and international relations. And we leave with a big horrific question mark of what's going to happen next.
Yeah, exactly. Well, let's lead off. I think the listeners both know what we both think of this movie.
Yeah.
I think this is... I said about Gareth Edwards' movie that I think is a staggering achievement, and that applies to this film as well. This film is incredible. I think it's one of these films that I so am in awe of that I can barely put it into words.
Yeah, no, I honestly do think it's a phenomenal film, and for listeners who've followed on early on or from the start, you have watched my journey to basically a complete and full Godzilla convert and what's the word, proselytizer, and Shin Godzilla not only is a phenomenal film, but for me and the people I know, I think it's a good entrance. and a good way for me to recommend it to people.
Absolutely.
I will always sing and speak the praises of Godzilla, and I will always, in conversation, do my best to contextualize it for people rather than just, it's monsters fighting each other. I always like to go in a little bit as to what it actually is, what the movies are like. But for a lot of people, I do think the best thing that I can do is recommend them Shin Godzilla as an entryway. It's in many ways a more modern film. It's more connected to the kind of movies that people are used to. And God, it's 1,000 times better than some of the shit that comes out. I mean, during the film, we were talking about the budget of the film, which is $50 million US.
Yeah.
And we were kind of just looking through to a bunch of different films that were out in the last couple of years to see what's different. And especially what comes to mind are big budget Marvel movies.
Yeah, like the average Marvel budget is, I think, did we look at it was 200 million?
200 million for like the mid-range film like Black Panther, stuff like that. Infinity Wars is obviously like $500 million. But
sickening.
Yeah, and so what's $500 million? Like 15 into $500 million is what, like 20 times?
Yeah.
Something more than that.
Well, we worked out that say 200 billion for 200 billion. That's gonna be for like Avengers 10 or something. That's what the budget will be. For like you said, a middle of the road, like a solo Marvel,
film.
As solo as
There's
it can
no
be,
such thing.
a Star Wars story. The budget is like average like $200 million. Compare that to Shin Godzilla, which had $15 million US roughly as its budget. We worked out that's 1/13 of the US budget of a Marvel movie. And I just said to Ross through the film, like, God, you know what? It's not a case of like low budget versus big budget. I don't consider Shin Godzilla like a low budget film.
No, it's not.
It's just that like we live in an age now where like American Hollywood blockbusters are so bloated in terms of the money that's thrown at them, and you just got to remember, you got to contextualize that like not every film industry across the world is Hollywood.
Yeah, it's true, and in some ways maybe a little more streamlined.
Yeah.
In some ways, well, I mean, if you look at the sort of the effects budget of these big Marvel movies, is that they go to a sort of completely different department, and in a lot of cases, the creative team involved in the movie, say for example Black Panther, which I really enjoyed, Ryan Coogler and the creative team have no control over the CGI. They have no control over essentially how the movie physically looks in terms of its supernatural or fantastical elements. That's all done in-house, millions of miles away, probably well in advance, and decided by a very different creative team.
Well, the point we were making wasn't it that basically like look what Shin Godzilla can do on that comparatively smaller budget, and just how incredible a film it looks, how it harnesses its I struggle to say limited effects capability, because again you have to qualify that statement and with regards to the absolute gargantua that is Hollywood right now. But Shin Godzilla is just an incredible looking film. The CGI, obviously except for a few little bits here and there, looks phenomenal, and the way it's integrated into real world locations and just the way the film is shot, like. I said to you, like I personally feel that all these Marvel movies, now that they're backed by Disney and by to take it broader, the Star Wars movies and like a lot of these live action Disney movies they're doing now, like Wrinkle in Time, they have far too much money at their disposal and they have no fucking idea what to do with it. Whereas Shin Godzilla, there's a film, $15 million rough budget, not a dollar or yen of that is poorly spent.
No.
Or has gone to waste at all.
No.
And I don't know what the greater point of this like mini rant was, but
spend your money wisely.
Shin Godzilla's better than
Don't penny pinch
all Marvel films.
Yes, correct.
Can I top you up?
Oh yes, please, Steven. Please top up.
So any other thoughts on Shin Godzilla?
No, I'm done. Let's wrap this up.
Wrapping up already. Well, just a random thought I have about Shin Gojira. If you want sort of more details, breakdown thoughts, do go back to our Glasgow Fright Fest episode, but
yeah, that's where the real meat and potatoes are.
I think
I think we both agreed.
I thought that I had during the movie,
Look,
which
the prosecco's out, folks. You're not going to get a lot.
which I hear that little pour.
Oh,
Nice, crisp.
Crisp.
Is that Rando Yaguchi, played by the incredible and massively versatile performer Hiroki Hasegawa. I think he's probably the best human character in a Godzilla film after Dr. Serizawa from the original. And, maybe that risks the wrath of those who love Miki Sugusa, the sidekick from the 90s, and people like Glenn the astronaut, as played by Nick Adams, and all these other wonderful, rich human characters that contrary to popular belief, really perpetuate through the whole series. But man, Yaguchi is he is the absolute boy.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's definitely one of the strongest. And what's nice about him is he doesn't come across, he's not a hugely stylized or aestheticized character. Serizawa right off the bat has got this eye patch.
Sure.
And he's got his lab coat. Even Miki Sugusa has the sort of trappings of being a psychic and in this super secret government agency. When we meet Yaguchi, he really is nothing more or less than a government...
a mid-level politician.
Junior deputy or a junior minister. And the entire movie is all his drive and his will and his own passion for seeing the job get done. We really don't learn anything about him personally.
No.
Only about his actual personal character in relation to his work. We learn that he's considered quite a shrewd political operative, and even his colleagues consider him someone that will go far and someone that really everything he does is sort of politically motivated.
Yeah.
But underneath that, obviously, is a deep moral pride in his country, yes, but a deep moral desire to see people protected, to see Japan sort of protecting itself, not kowtowing to other nations. And it all kind of comes through basically as background, as stuff that informs character as it's happening.
Yeah.
And especially as you watch it sort of for a second and third time, you really do appreciate the sort of finer subtleties of character. You really can appreciate, for example, in all the sort of boardroom scenes, the different mesh of personalities that are flying. And I've always said this is such a funny movie, and we talked about it in our original Shin Godzilla episode, but watching it in a cinema with a wider sort of general audience that hadn't necessarily seen the movie, and them laughing, understanding like there's a lot of comedy and character to be gained from just small interactions and small little cuts and things.
Like the first 10 minutes of this film are so funny, but in a sort of, well, it doesn't quite reach the frustrating level yet, because it is just funny how they have to have a meeting. You have to have a meeting to decide if they should hold a meeting. You can't hold a meeting there. You have to hold a meeting there.
Yeah, we need to change conference rooms.
You can't talk about this here. We can only talk about that there.
Yeah, okay, we're all agreed. Let's move rooms.
Yeah, exactly. And then you even get the following abbreviated caption on the screen, because even the film itself is finding the political meanderings so tedious that the film itself has to skip forward.
Yeah.
Which is just such a fucking funny and clever thing to do. But of course this all escalates, and it gets to a point where to me the film's, well, not maybe the primary theme, but one of the film's primary themes is how to quote myself, I think this is how I put it when I wrote for Fright Fest about the film, is the infuriating inefficiency of bureaucracy. And this is encapsulated in a quote that Yaguchi said when he and his fellow ministers are inspecting the damage after the first and second forms of Godzilla have made landfall, and he says, we had look at all the damage it's done in just 2 hours on land. No, you're wrong. We had 2 hours to mount a response, and we did nothing. And I know he does get chewed out for that a bit, saying, oh, it was unexpected. Everyone did as best they could, and it's like, they didn't.
You all fucked about.
But he's like, not to be the person who says, I'll say it. Everyone's hinking it, but I'll say it. But he says it. there's no fucking bullshit about Yaguchi. There's no beating about the bush. And even after he gets chewed out, all the other ministers walk away to inspect. I think to meet the press. I think it is. But only Yaguchi stays behind and offers a quiet prayer.
Yes,
for the victims. Yeah, and it's just little touches like that, which, you know, I as long as I've been politically minded in my life, I'm skeptical of the motivations and actions of literally any and all politicians. Because you're insane if you're not.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
But with Yaguchi, and it's weird saying this about a character who is a politician, you do genuinely feel that, you know, politics aside, party lines aside, bureaucracy and order and hierarchy aside, this is a man who just wants to do the right thing.
Yes. No, you get that certainly with himself and with the sort of special envoy to Japan from the US.
Yeah, Kyoko Ann Patterson.
Yes, yeah, Kyoko Patterson. You get these characters who you kind of sense in another life, or maybe even a year earlier, that these would be real shrewd political operators that would be sneaking around, making small decisions, and really always with the focus of their own political climb ahead of them. Obviously, with Patterson, she really dreams of becoming president, and even at the end, that's still on her list. But for Yaguchi, you get the sense that is out the window.
Yeah.
And at the end, he's more or less by his sort of mentor, I forget the guy's name, but sort of mentor / friend, more or less told him, like, look, Japan's going to need to rebuild. We're going to need a whole new cabinet, whole new set of politicians. And basically extending to him, saying, look, you're going to be right up in front and involved in that. And you get the sense that that is the least of Yaguchi's care.
Yeah, exactly.
He is interested solely in the Godzilla question. What do we do next? How do we prepare? How do we go from here?
Oh, you want to be Prime Minister in 10 years, don't you? Have to make sure the country's still here in 10 years.
Yeah, that's it. Gone is the sort of personal trappings of the sort of party, his own political climb, just about people.
I find Kyoko Ann Patterson has a really satisfying arc. Because I think, obviously, you know, it's easy for her to... She enters the film as, you know, the sort of stereotypical rash, boisterous American diplomat in a foreign country. You know, being very loud and abrasive and very forward in a country whose politics are maybe not quite that. Whereas the more time she spends in Japan, and more specifically, the more time she spends with Yaguchi and his crack team, she comes to appreciate... well, I mean, part of the character is that she is of Japanese ancestry, and she mentions that her mother was... born in... Her grandmother, was born and raised in Japan and lived through the nuclear bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And the more time she spends in Japan, the more she doesn't quite let her guard down, but sort of lets that like sort of feverish boisterousness dissipate a little bit, and she cools off and realizes that just because she's there representing America doesn't mean America's doing the right thing. Doesn't mean she's on... not to be this cut and dry about it, but doesn't mean that she's on the right side.
Yes.
And like I said to you, there was a point in this film when I first watched it where I almost expected like Yaguchi and his team to go rogue. Like they were going to get shut down by the government, and then they were like, no, we're still going to do it anyway. We're going to do Yashiori's strategy by ourselves. And then then it would be easy to extend that to think Kyoko will be like, you know, I'll take care of the Americans. I'll make sure yous are uninterrupted. You go do your thing. But no, it's not that kind of film.
No.
This film is... I get so annoyed when viewers, people, fans, whatever, take from this a message, a case for Japanese nationalism, Japanese military rearmament. Because how can you read a film so incorrectly?
Yeah.
This... To me, I mean, maybe to someone listening to this, I sound naive, but to me, this film, at the end of the day, this film is about what the Godzilla franchise is about. International cooperation and trust in your fellow man, regardless of politics, nation, whatever, is the only thing that will save us in the face of annihilation. that is what this film was about, and that's what Godzilla as a franchise is about.
Absolutely. I mean, the end of the film, this big climax of sending in the bombers and initiating this plan to spray and coagulate Godzilla's blood, all takes place at a time when Godzilla is inactive. In fact, he's kind of inactive for the last 45 minutes of the movie. And the real ratcheting tension, the real big climax before that is the US and the UN in general, a sort of a US-led UN coalition hell-bent on using nuclear weapons in Japan, like, imminently.
Absolutely.
So at the tail end of the movie, not the villain, but the sort of antagonistic force that we're dealing with against the clock isn't Godzilla, it's the nuclear force. It's
nuclear weaponry.
Yeah, it's use of nuclear weapons once again.
Is what the Godzilla series always comes back to.
And this movie
the Godzilla
reflects
series...
reflects
absolutely. Kyoga and Patterson says, when it's looking like the bomb drop is going to happen on Tokyo, the US says that if it was in Washington, it'd be the same case. Sure.
Sure.
She says that she's leaving because she can't face seeing another bomb dropped on her grandmother's nation when she managed to live through both of them. And then we get the very sudden smash cut to two photos of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Just two very quick black and white photos, no soundtrack, no dialogue over it, no context, just
almost mid-scene.
Just doof, doof. And to me, that's to remind, that's Anno and Higuchi, Higuchi, sorry, saying to the viewer that, this is what this film, this character, this franchise, this genre is about. Not all kaiju films are about, or should be about, should carry an anti-nuclear message, or should be about nuclear disarmament. Because to say that every kaiju film or every Godzilla film should be about that, and that only, is to put the nail in the coffin of the genre.
It's incredibly limiting.
Yeah, exactly.
You need to be able to do something
and
else than that.
A lot of people with all due respect, lesser knowledges of the Godzilla franchise feel that that's what the franchise should and always should be and always should be.
Yeah, just strictly...
Because they read an article once about how the original film was an allegory for nuclear weaponry. But that's a whole other rant. That's my rant about how art house fans and scholars whack themselves silly over the original film and think it's the only valid Godzilla film. It's not. But yeah, at the end of the day, Godzilla, the franchise, it always comes back to Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And as I'm saying, not every Godzilla film is, or going into the future should be, about that, or should even, directly address it, because don't if it's not natural to the film.
Yeah.
But it should always be there. It should always come back.
Absolutely.
That's where the franchise, that's where the genre was born, and
I think it was
that
good.
Can't be forgotten.
Yeah, and I think it was good for the film to particularly in these times in the last couple of years, I think it was good for the film to go back and directly readdress those issues.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sort of wholeheartedly and fully for a new generation, for a new era of films, well into the sort of first decade of the millennium. For future Godzilla films, sure, go in a completely opposite direction, take us to new places, which they're doing with the animated films.
They already have.
Yeah. But it's really nice for them to touch base with those core themes for sort of, a 50-year anniversary? Or 60 years?
Well, Shin Godzilla.
Shin Godzilla was...
62.
62, well, there we go. Certainly sort of half a century later, touching on those themes again, really drilling them in, seeing how we feel about them, surprise, much the same. Yeah,
exactly. And I just don't see how one can interpret this film as an argument for Japanese rearmament, or can read it as nationalist, because wanting a say in your own nation's future is not a nationalist statement.
No.
Not allowing America to bulldoze your country's future is not nationalist.
No, well, that's it. I mean,
and that's why I think. Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, that's okay.
That's to an extent why I think this film had more of a mixed reception in America amongst American fans and American critics. I say America, not Western. I say America, because, and I don't think this song is anti-American at all.
No,
but because they say no.
Yes.
While they do narrowly avoid the bomb, at the end of the day, they say no. And they do it themselves. Sure, they have American cooperation and assistance. Because, like I say, international cooperation is the only thing that's going to save us.
Oh.
But I think that's, to an extent, why this film had a more mixed reception among Americans.
Yeah, I mean,
because of that.
The movie does make a point of addressing and following through on Japan's relationship with the US some 60, 70, 80 years on from World War II. I mean, there's the quote that's so good that this post-war period never ends.
Post-war extends forever.
Yeah, that Japan's always going to be this sort of weird tributary nation that's been reformed out of this war with America.
Yeah.
Or this war and America's involvement with the nuclear weapons.
Sure. Yeah.
And even going into the finale of the film again, where they are racing against the clock to defeat Godzilla or neutralize them before the US-led coalition drops the nuclear bomb.
Sure.
They're still using US aid. In fact,
exactly.
As always, subtitles on all like military vehicles give you the specs and the name and the class of all the vehicles, and they make a very direct point of showing you that even in this big finale of dealing with Godzilla, it is US bombers and US military vehicles still assisting in this operation as well.
Yeah.
Which is, that's there. That's worth thinking about.
To me, it kind of says everything that this film was an absolute smash hit. Actually, smash hit doesn't even cover it. In Japan, it was an absolutely monumental, runaway, like culture-defining success. Mm-hmm. This film still is massive in Japan. Like Shin Godzilla, that incarnation just appeared in a commercial in Japan.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like they're still can't bend the shin.
Can't bend the shin.
Much like myself, they are still riding the high from this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the fact that it got a bit of a more mixed reception. Goodness me.
I know, I've got some burps in me.
A bit more of a mixed reception in America. Obviously, I don't want to be this cut and dry about it, but kind of says it all to me.
Yeah, no, it is unfortunate because, to me, this is a film that I just can't understand if you dislike it.
I mean,
I can understand.
There it is, yeah.
I can understand the lack of interest. I can understand, you know what, it's not a movie for me. But to just not even, to be able to watch it and not even be like, oh, I can appreciate it. I understand what they're going for. I dig it.
To watch this film and say that it goes against the defining principles or themes of the Godzilla series, to say that it does a disservice or dishonours Ishiro Honda or Tomoyuki Tanaka or Eiji Tsuburaya or any of the founding fathers of the Godzilla series or the Kaiju genre, it is quite frankly insane. Mm-hmm. This is the most Honda Godzilla film since the last Honda Godzilla film.
Yeah, I can believe that. And the thing is, the film doesn't shy away from the fact that there is a complexity to these things. Yuguchi says he entered politics because there was a very clear sense of friend and foe, but you get the sense that it's not something he strictly believes.
Exactly.
or has come to learn that that's not necessarily the case.
That's just a pre-prepared remark he gives people when he's asked why politics.
And you can imagine a sort of younger, sort of fresh-faced Yuguchi, again, a sort of very politically or personally motivated Yuguchi thinking exactly that, but we see just how complex these interactions are, how complex it is to be able to have a moral standpoint and to fight for it in your government, how bureaucracy gets in the way, how international cooperation gets in the way, how much compromise there is in these decisions.
Yeah.
And how much sort of 70, 80 years of history affects it.
Absolutely.
Things are complex, but Yuguchi remains sort of morally steadfast in his goals and what he's trying to do and does his best to achieve them. Yeah.
There we are. Much like Anno making this film.
Much like us doing this podcast.
The absolute madman, Anno.
So, with Anno and
Shinji
Higuchi, they just seem like such a weird dream pairing.
They really are. Like, there's a photo of them just sort of like, doing weird poses. It looks like Anno's dabbing, and it obviously isn't, but it's like from the 80s or something. And I
can believe they invented dabbing.
It's just like flash forward, Japanese Academy Award winning
Yeah,
like directors.
pair of lads.
Isn't it just so incredible? Like the Japanese, it's easy to see, oh, this film won a Japanese Academy Award, as if it's nothing.
Yeah, there's some tidgy little thing.
But like what, like, yeah, because like awards in the Western world do not award films like this.
Yeah, no, certainly not.
This film got, I think it won. It won like, it was nominated for 10 Japanese Academy Awards. It won 8.
That's great.
Including Picture of the Year and Best Directors.
Well deserved.
Best Picture of the Year, Best Directors, and I think Best Original Screenplay as well. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, Anno wasn't there.
Oh, yeah, why would he be?
Higuchi was.
That's good.
He was given. It was. I don't know if it was at the Japanese Awards, the Japanese Academy Awards, but there was a photo of Higuchi being given like an award for Shin Godzilla by a person in a Godzilla suit, and people were like, "That's Anno. Anno's in the suit."
That's amazing. I love that. Are we refill, Stephen?
Why not? I'll tell you what. See, for us, kind of, admittedly, sort of half watching the film, and saying that this was going to be a lighter one. That was a. We got into it there.
We sort of did some advance. That was the advance. That's the. That's the what's the word for it? The readings that you do in seminars. The repeat readings.
Yeah, sure.
Whatever.
And after this, we're going to go and rewatch all the Godzilla films.
Yes, we're doing it all over again, backwards, in reverse.
And then else you want to talk about Shin-wise?
I don't think so. I think honestly, if more thoughts come to me, we'll.
I mean, I'm always down to talk Shin.
To talk Shin.
Yeah.
You're into the Shin.
You can't bend the Shin.
You can't bend the Shin.
Cannot bend the Shin. I think my last word on this film, which I'll say, and I do say this. As a positive and a hopeful note, because it's going to sound a little bit pessimistic, and I say this to you during the film. My personal feelings on this film is that, I mean, I'm not going to lie, right now in this moment, I think this is the second best Godzilla film ever. Without a shadow of doubt.
After
the original.
I couldn't think of a bad one.
After Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2. Director Takao Okawara, 1993. Kidding, that's the worst. But we'll get to that later. I think this is the second best Godzilla film ever made. And it's sort of taken me, not the 2 years since it came out, because I didn't see it immediately, but the sort of year and a half since I saw it. It's sort of taken 18 months for me, not even to just form the opinion, but to sort of accept it and realise it, that it's like, yeah, shit, that is how I feel about this film. This is genuinely almost the best Godzilla film. And going off of that, I say what I fear, and I only use that in terms of word choice because it's not a genuine fear, because it's only a good thing, really. But what I fear now is that, for me personally, and for the genre, really, is that the bar has been raised so fucking high by this film in particular. I absolutely adore Godzilla 2014. The Gareth Edwards movie, and for a while I thought these were sort of on par, but just over the past little while, Shin has
reigns.
Sort of edged.
Shin towers above the rest.
Can't bend the Shin.
You can't bend the Shin.
That's the hashtag of this episode.
Please, hashtag can't bend the Shin.
But the bar has been raised so indescribably high by this film. Not even just for Godzilla going forward as a character in a franchise, but for kaiju and giant monster cinema in general. Just me personally, in terms of my own reaction to this film and how much I love it, I don't know if any, let alone Godzilla or Kaiju film, am I ever going to feel this fucking way about film again? Like, why are we even making films anymore?
Why are we doing
Cinema's peaked!
It's done, we're done!
The absolute master, the madman, did it!
He absolutely did it, the absolute lad.
Shinji Higuchi just went, I dared Anno to direct the new Godzilla film. Absolute madman. He only went and did it.
He did it. And then Shin Godzilla showed up and we were in awe at the size
and you know what?
Of that lad. Absolutely in it.
Nearly 2 fucking years after the fact, I'm still in nothing but absolute awe of this film. And I'm still riding the high.
It honestly is one of those films that just has a spark to it. It has an intensity to it. There are just some key unforgettable moments that, remembering the first time I watched it, did just fill me with like a thrill, and some of the scenes of bureaucracy were things I hadn't really seen in a film before, and with a particular comic tone.
Yeah.
But I mean, the atomic breath scene is sort of unforgettable. It's sort of iconic. It's intensity, it's rawness, it's fucking sheer horror.
Yeah.
And sort of gaping shock. And just how long it goes for, and how unrelenting it is, and how unforgiving it is. It is absolutely phenomenal. The ending note as well, with this strange single stack shot of Godzilla's tail and weird sort of skeletal exoskeleton mini Godzillas ripped out of it. Frozen, dead, theoretically.
Sure.
But the sort of capability of the creature exists to be able to do that still.
Godzilla was defeated by committee, and as the film tells us, it's the ultimate organism that can adapt to meet anything. So if it was defeated by a committee, it needs to become a committee.
Yeah, you said that last time, and it's perfect though. It's true. It's interesting to see where, if they will take the live action Godzillas. Do you have an understanding, or do you know? Well, are there sequels? Are there more?
This is a great place to seg into something I want to talk about, which is the state of the genre right now, which is incredible. Apparently, I won't do it right now. I'll talk about it later more. But apparently, Toho can't make another live-action Godzilla movie until 2021.
Okay.
I think, because I think Shinji Higuchi talked about that at G-Fest. And apparently it's part of their deal with Legendary Pictures. But, Toho got the anime trilogy pumped out, through a sort of clause there. So Toho are going to make it's looking likely that Toho will have another live-action Godzilla film in 2021 or a year or two after that. Whether that's going to be something different or new, or Shin Godzilla 2.0 or 2.22, as Anno will probably call it. Whether they could fucking get Anno back. And I'm sorry, I adore Shinji Higuchi, but this is Anno's movie.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, no, absolutely. He's the Mark Frost to Anno. Like, of course, a key part, but look, credit where credit's due.
Yeah, exactly. It's like Twin Peaks. If you had to have Frost or Lynch, you're choosing Lynch.
You're choosing Lynch, and Mark Frost knows that.
You're gonna firewalk with him.
Yes, you are. And Mark Frost understands that.
It is a comparable relationship.
I'm sure.
I adore Shinji Higuchi. He's such a nice person, and he's so welcoming of fans in the Western world.
And you've met or not met?
I haven't met him
but
personally.
Seen him at G-Fest.
He's done G-Fest. He did G-Fest last year.
That's great.
After winning the fucking Japanese Academy Prize, he went to fucking Rosemont, Illinois, and did G-Fest.
That's great. What a nice guy.
Yeah, exactly.
I know, AWOL in the mountains somewhere. I'm sure.
Literally, toiling over Evangelion 4.
But yeah, you need that kind of relationship.
Or not, yeah.
Or not.
There's a running joke that Anna was just doing anything to avoid making the fourth Evangelion reboot movie, and that includes making a Godzilla film.
That would be great. So I think you agree, Steven. 2021 Shin, the Kaijusaurus Podcast.
Well, never say never again.
We are never saying never.
I'd be quite happy for a Shin Godzilla sequel to open the exact moment this one ends.
Yes.
I love sequels that do that. Like Evil Dead 2 and Back to the Future Part 2 that open the exact moment the first film ends, and Shin Godzilla could do that.
That would be really satisfying.
Just have one of the
things peel off.
Yeah, have one of them fall off, and that's your opening. And Yuguchi's still on the roof, and he's like,
"Oh wait, what was binoculars?" Oh.
Do you think we're wrapped up our Godzilla
I think we can wrap up that Shin Godzilla
our
chat.
Film discussions
have
come to an end. This was the reason we capped it at Shin Godzilla is because, frankly, Ross, you've not seen Planet of the Monsters.
I haven't seen Planet of the Monsters.
But despite Ross having not seen that, we both sort of agreed that Shin Godzilla would be a great, great high for us to go out on because there's so much to talk about there. Despite having talked about it already, we both love the movie, and it is just a better place to go out on than I don't know, we're leaving it in such a great place. There's no less there's fucking we're now up to the point, excluding Planet of the Monsters, where if we keep going, we're waiting for Godzilla films to come out. And that's not a complaint.
No.
That's an amazing fucking thing. I never thought starting this podcast that we would get to that point where I am anticipating Godzilla film zzz.
Yeah, you're up to your
Coming out.
knees in Godzilla.
Yeah. So it's just the best place to leave it, I think.
Yeah, and as we said before, people have asked us, will you come back? We have maintained the line of never say never. It's not something we've talked about or planned.
Exactly.
But what I can say personally is that I think we work best having a sort of backlog to work through anyway.
Absolutely, yeah.
And it worked, you know, the sort of premise of the podcast hinges on me being the newbie who's never seen them before. So it's not fair if we enter a new ungodly era where we're both encountering the films at the same time.
Exactly.
I think that would make you, the listener, very uncomfortable.
It's like
Almost as uncomfortable as Steven would be.
who knows? Maybe once the anime trilogy's done, we'll do it as a oneer.
Yeah.
Maybe once.
That might be nice.
Maybe once. I don't know. Who knows? But for. I'm not.
Keep subscribed. Who knows? We might fire stuff into
fucking,
your subscription.
We're not
so don't remove us.
We're not closing the door. It's not a sad end or an angry end. We're not being like, no, fucking done. That's it. Never again. We're just. We've seen it through.
Yeah.
I personally feel that we have both accomplished more than what we ever wanted to out of this.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, should we maybe just do our some of our wrapping up now, then into Q&A, and then we can kind of say final goodbyes?
Sure.
You're experiencing live podcast planning.
Yeah.
I mean, just so it's on the records, I was the one that suggested the podcast.
That's
to Steven.
very true, yeah.
That is an official truth. You just mark that down. Put that on the Wikipedia. For those of you who are working on the Wikipedia entry.
Wait. Do you mean Godzilla Wiki or...
the real...
Or Gojipedia?
Or are there competing Wikipedias for Godzilla?
You know...
What one are we allied to?
No offense to a friend of mine who is aligned with one of them. You know who you are. No offense, but it does say everything about the Western Godzilla fandom that there are two opposing fan wikis.
Which one are we officially going to align with?
What's the one that?
Or will we remain neutral?
What's the goddamn one that?
Are we going to recognise them?
That name and address withheld rights for? I think it's.
I don't know.
Wikizilla. Fuck! I'm sorry.
The only Wikipedia I recognise is Wikipedia.org.
I am a neutral point between both warring Godzilla wikis.
We will facilitate communications between. We are the intermediaries.
We are the Yaguchi
No, when
squad.
you're writing your Wikipedia article about the podcast, please note that I was the one that came up with it. But no, this was something for me and Steven, you know, just to do every month or so, a way to keep in touch, a way to hang out, a way to just have an excuse to watch movies.
Sure.
Again, I'd never seen any Godzilla movies, and knowing Steven for as long as I had, and knowing how big a fan of them he is, it just felt like a good opportunity to say, hey, Steven, it came around from me saying, hey, maybe I should ask Steven to show me the original Godzilla sometime.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, I know that there's more than just that. It'd be fun to watch more. And I thought, well, we could do it as one of these podcasts that I hear the kids talking about.
Well, you know what? That's a great point to lead off on and just ask you some questions. Or if you want to ask me any or whatever. But here's something I've wanted to sort of ask you really from the start. Looking ahead from seeing where we might go with this. One thing I wanted to ask you is, what surprised you about the series? What... And in the way, what I mean in that way is, like, did you have any preconceptions that were torn down or were met? Or, like, what was different about the series than you expected?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, certainly, first is obviously scale. Probably in the back of my head I knew that there were fucking 30 of them, but definitely hadn't something I'd considered that there was near 30 films, and growing as we went on.
As we went on, yeah.
The scale and the variety, obviously.
Yeah.
And just how vast and varied these films could be in their tone, design, style, type of monsters, type of movie, and certainly, obviously, spanning many, many decades. Effect, budget, cast, dedication, obviously.
Yeah.
From very into the movie, let's do it. This is going to be a good movie to fuck it. We need to put a movie out this year.
Yeah.
So yeah, just the real variety and the real vastness of this franchise was just really fun to behold. Preconceptions, obviously, I think just as a Western viewer, I knew in the back of my head that the original Godzilla was sort of a highly regarded film, a sort of anti-nuclear film, and I knew generally that for many of them there were big monster punch-ups. I think as someone that hadn't really watched a lot of older science fiction films, a lot of, I'm quoting here, sort of B-movie type films, or someone that my era, my age would consider basically anything that's older and of a certain budget a B-movie, because they don't really
older and of a certain genre.
Any science, basically any old science fiction film at this rate, I think
people like to call it B-movie.
You're sort of inclined to call it a B-movie when it necessarily or strictly isn't.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think in the back of my head I probably had a more ideas of just big monster punch-ups and silliness and sort of frivolous human action. But what I did find, there are some really compelling stories in there. And the movies, as we all know, the movies that I love the best are the ones with the real compelling human stories and the real compelling human action over and above the Godzilla stuff. And even best when that blends together perfectly with a real theme.
No one did it like Toho in the 60s.
No, absolutely not. There were some really banging films. So I think that is what I would say. And obviously, surprising as well was just getting to know and love a genre that, you know, ever since I've known you, that's been your thing, or certainly one of them, that you've been a big fan of these films, and a big fighter and a big defender of them.
It's the thing.
It's your
when all said and done, everything else can go to fucking shit.
Because you can't bend the shin.
Can't bend the shin.
So I would say sort of just how in depth I would go into this genre, how far it can take it, like any science fiction film, really. Just how much you can explore, what kind of places you can go. I mean, just off the top of my head, Godzilla's explored anti-nuclear proliferation. It's explored sort of anti-imperial, discussed Japan's relationship with the United States, capitalism, rampant consumerism, the effect of media, our relationship with other nations, environmentalism, pollution, changing perspectives, changing generations, the transition from sort of older Japanese culture to sort of modern, trendy 60s lifestyle. It's just really whatever you need to explore, you can do it through this prism. Yeah.
Like I've always said throughout this whole endeavour, Godzilla is one of, or if not the most, allegorically fluid and rich characters in fiction.
Absolutely.
No, I'm not even going to limit it to cinema.
Well, that's it.
Fiction.
And you can do so much with Godzilla. He's a creature of unknowing mystery, he is in Shin Godzilla.
He can mean anything without impact being withdrawn.
And that's it, and without harming another film or going back on the original or the film that came before or the film that comes after.
Absolutely.
The ever-changing nature of Godzilla is great because it means that you can just cut it and change it to the next film. Whatever the next post-Shin film does, it's not going to affect Shin Godzilla in any way. We're not going to be sitting here going, shit's on the original. It's Anno's spinning in it. Well, he's not dead, but Anno's spinning in his forest retreat.
Well, I suppose going off that discussion, a simple question is, what's been your favourite?
Oh, none of them. No, this is tough because I can barely remember them.
This is very true, and you know what? The listeners know this, but I want to preface that by saying that is not to the film's the judgment of the films.
No,
it's just that it's Ross's.
That's how my brain works.
Like shit memory.
Yes, from however long I've known Steven, Steven will walk out of films and be able to quote you the funniest lines, full screeds of dialogue. Oh, my favourite part was when this character said this, the other character said this, and then this happened. And I would walk out of the film going, yeah, it was good. I liked when, it was good. Yeah, I liked it.
Was that George Clooney?
That was George Clooney, wasn't it? No, it was Brad Pitt. The same guy.
Matt Damon.
I really do suffer from these. But no, I can tell you obviously the original. I can tell you Shin Godzilla. I can tell you with a resounding thing, it's ever a horror of the deep.
Yes! I knew it was going to be!
It's ever a horror of the deep, without a doubt. That is definitely my favourite. What were the other ones I liked?
Well, I was going to say, you and I should watch the MST3K of Ever a Horror of the Deep.
I would really like to. I would really like to.
Other ones I remember you taking to a lot were Son of Godzilla.
Son of Godzilla, with the little boy.
Minola.
Yeah, no, that was really enjoyable. I kind of liked it because it did its own thing.
I remember you reacting very well to The Return of Godzilla, the sort of mid-80s Cold War movie.
Yes, that was really good.
Which is actually a lot. It's the Godzilla film that's most like Shin.
Yeah, no, I remember saying that.
Yeah.
This
is no time to be discussing principles.
I like the space ones a lot. That kind of had that Cold War
Invasion of Astro Monster, that sort of thing, and Ghidorah's three-headed monster. I remember you actually vaguely sort of followed my own tastes, really. And I'd like to think I didn't
built in your image.
I was going to say I like to think I didn't just lead you down that path.
No,
I
think we just
try and mold you or anything.
We just have similar tastes.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, yeah.
For those looking for severe conflict on this movie podcast, it's lacking.
We never got hot.
No, we never got too hot.
We never did get.
We got hot at other people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Or you got hot. I never got hot. Quote me one part of any podcast episode where I got hot. You
will fail. But yeah, you enjoyed. You really took to like the '60s movies in particular.
Yeah, no,
like,
I think
like
that was
Destroy All
a
Monsters.
Yeah,
like you enjoyed a lot. Godzilla's Revenge or All Monsters Attack, which was the one about Ichiro, the little boy who has Minola as an imaginary friend.
Yes.
That one, that's a gorgeous.
I think
movie.
it's clear. I just appreciate the effort. If it's clear you were trying, then I'm into it.
If you, I don't like to pigeonhole you in, but if you had to say, this is my favorite Godzilla movie.
Probably would be Ever a Horror of the Deep, because that is the one. Again, when I recommend with people, I mention, I do a podcast. What is it? I talk about Godzilla. I'll talk about the original, which people are mostly aware of. I'll let them know that the franchise exists and is still going to this day, and I'll let them know the existence of Shin Godzilla. And for modern people that mostly will just see modern movies as and when they come out, Shin Godzilla is definitely going to be on their taste.
Yeah.
But I will always talk about Ever a Horror of the Deep as an example of a film that's not the original.
Great.
It's not an anti-nuclear film. It's not a monsters fighting each other film. It's this weird mishmash. It's this fun 60s romp. It's colourful. It's beautiful. It's great.
It's a great fucking film.
And
It's a Bond movie.
Yeah.
It's a surfer movie. It's a Kaiju movie. It's an island adventure movie.
It's a 60s teen movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's so fucking colourful.
It's lovely. So I think, I think obviously that's one that's drilled in my memory as a really good one.
Good. Well, I was going to ask you what is, the controversial... try to get a negative opinion out of Roz Menzies is difficult, as I've found out over the years. But I was going to ask you what has been your least favourite. But if you can barely remember your favourites, I'm not going to ask you what your least favourite is.
The boring ones.
Yeah.
Just the ones that are boring. The ones where it's really just monsters fighting each other. And look...
The 90s.
Basically the 90s films. Some of the middle of the 80s films. You can refer to earlier episodes, but you'll know that... It does take more than just monsters fighting each other to entertain me, and I don't want to shit on you if you get
if that's what your draw is.
If that's where your joy is, because they're really impressive creatures. They're real creatures, and when you're watching them, they really are characters. They really are real creatures out there fighting each other. But I just need a little more. At Yeah, well, that's it.
Well. Shall we get to the listeners?
I think we should get to the listeners and read out some Q&A. Look, we've been sent so much stuff from all of you, and it's been really heartening.
Well, without further ado, shall we just jump in?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm going to start with...
Well, before we go, obviously you guys have sent us so much, not just Q&A, but also letters and sort of just your own general thoughts on the podcast. And as far as those ones go, we're going to do our best to kind of give everyone a wee spot in the limelight and mention you. If we don't read out a question or a letter, we're really sorry. We actually did get quite a lot.
We did,
and as far as big letters go, we're not going to read out your own sort of personal thoughts verbatim, the full letter, but we'll try and get the gist.
Well, on that note, I'm going to start off with a message from my beautiful, gorgeous, lovely fiancée, Laura, who really wanted to be here tonight, but unfortunately she shouldn't. She shouldn't?
Yeah,
she shouldn't be here. She couldn't be here. So, Laura, who, as you know, is my fiancée who I'm marrying next year and has been co-host on plenty of episodes, Laura says, I cannot believe this is actually coming to an end. I wish I could be there with you to help celebrate the last podcast. From being in the same room as you when you're watching the film, hearing you record in the kitchen. Can we now reveal that the Kaijusaurus recording studio was the kitchen in my old flat?
It was Steven's kitchen, yeah, mostly. Occasionally my living room, occasionally Steven's living room.
But mostly the kitchen in my old flat. Hearing you record in the kitchen, to guest starring on a few episodes. Highlights would be the Ultraman X episode, which Laura and I did. She loved having an episode that just the two of us did, where she could voice her opinions on the popular Ultraman monster, which is the giant farting cat. Also loved that people now call Red King Yellow Corn Godzilla. Laura's other highlights were the Megalon episode, because devotees will remember that that's her favourite Godzilla film. And of course she loved the live Godzilla 1998 episode, which I did as well, by the way.
It was fun.
Because it was so much fun. Laura says she's been part of my life for nearly 10 years and has loved how I've included her in Ross and I's project, because her opinion was worth hearing.
Yes, absolutely.
I hope others felt the same. She continues saying, I feel I should also mention how taping these, especially whether I'm in the background or just listening or joining in with the recording, it always felt like hanging out with friends and watching a film.
That's the vibe we go for.
That's
we love you, Laura.
Yeah.
We gotta give a big hand to Laura. She really is sort of third co-host.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
When she can be here, it's always fun to have her.
Exactly.
She just brings like her own perspective, and it's such fun.
Exactly. And I love you. And I can't wait to marry you.
I also love you, Laura, and I can't wait to see you get married.
There we go. And it's just a little question. Laura says, if we could see one Godzilla film get the Mystery Science Theater 3000 treatment, what would it be?
Ooh, that's a good one. Shin Godzilla.
Can you imagine?
Oh, it'd be grim. It'd be so grim.
They wouldn't have a chance to talk.
No, they'd just be trying to read subtitles.
Obviously the obvious choice is Godzilla 98, but Riff Tracks did that.
Yeah, oh, did they?
Yeah, I've not watched it yet, but I really should. I guess my choice would be, it's easy to see one of the ones that I like less, like Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2 or Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla, or... I think one of those ones.
Yeah, I think that's a good choice. I think maybe Godzilla vs. Hedorah would be fun. That'd be such fun, because that movie is a great film. That's definitely one of my favourites. But there's a lot of fun and weird stuff in it that I think there would be.
Can have fun.
There would be a lot of mileage out of it.
As long as you were riffing a beat up print of the American version or something.
Yeah, totally. You could definitely have fun with that. So next up we have a letter from Raphael, and he says and has like to tell us that he feels like we've created something that wasn't just entertaining, but something that for him made it very special, that made Godzilla and the kaiju genre very special, with our hilarious quips and our banter.
Oh yes.
And he appreciates the way that we've sort of discussed and talked through the movies, and obviously Raphael's someone that we've had in the podcast more than once.
This is true. He has been on my G-Fest special episode 2016, and I interviewed him talking about his book series Daikaiju Yuki.
That's right, which he's releasing more of.
Yeah, it's expanded to Daikaiju Yuki, Y2K Yuki Conquers the World, and Mokwa Life's Blood of the Earth, which we cameo in.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I love this.
And the final battle takes place at Stirling Castle.
You've got to pick this up, folks.
You've
got to pick this up. See, I didn't know the Stirling Castle part, but I knew that we showed up.
Yeah.
And I'm so pleased, and I can't wait to properly read that one. Please, pick up Raphael's stuff and re-listen to his podcast episode. Because, the ones you've done without me, with sort of friends of the show on a greater scale are great as well.
It enriches the lore.
It does.
Around
the greater kaiju universe. Something of an infinity war. So thank you, Raphael.
Thanks, Raph. Hamish says, Hamish, who of course has contributed so much to the podcast over the years.
And drawn our smiley, lovely faces.
Well, yeah, exactly. Most of all, our beautiful album artwork, which I'm still always in fucking awe of. Hamish says he's said this many times, but couldn't be a bigger fan of the two of us as a pair and what Steven has done since taking over Kaijusaurus from me all those years ago. Hamish started the Kaijusaurus blog. Hamish started the Kaijusaurus brand.
Yes.
I took over from him in early 2013, I think. Hamish says the podcast has been a delight and such a beacon of positivity, laughter, and friendship in a fandom that can sometimes feel a little bit otherwise. And thank you so much, because that's kind of what I think I can say. That's what we've both wanted. Just positivity.
Yeah, absolutely. We're here to have fun,
laughter, and enjoyment.
You've been here to score beefs. Let's not beat around the bush.
I will not lie. I have used the platform a few times, but it's never been my primary focus. Until now!
Domination of the kaiju scene. I'm here for fun and love and nothing else.
Hamish says, if we don't return for a long time, at least we've created something that he'll keep coming back to.
No, that's really sweet.
Yeah.
That's really nice. And we really like Hamish, and his artwork is phenomenal. And just kind of getting to know our friends of the show, like Hamish.
Yeah, exactly.
On a little online personal note, has been one of the joys of the show for me.
I agree, yeah.
And Hamish has shows that you should look up, like Batteries Not Included.
Box Not Included.
Damn it.
Yeah. Box Not Included, and the Poltercast, and very soon Husbands.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, in which he's watching all of Doctor Who with his husband.
Still in our format.
Well, it's more of a full circle, isn't it?
Yeah, and they're both fans, so it doesn't count.
Exactly, and I'm super excited for that.
Yeah, that'll be good.
I want to do something with Doctor Who. Doctor Who is my other big passion. Well, I say other big passion. It's nowhere near as big as.
I'm not allowed to because I can't pronounce Doctor Who right.
Doctor Who.
Doctor Who.
Shall we do? We've got lots of like statements and.
Well, there's questions here, so folks, we're not going to read out everyone's sort of the personal statements. Know that we have read them and we're really pleased. But next, we're going to go on to a question from Dominic, so who asks us, Stephen, what film have you watched, or within your watch through, has anything significantly changed your opinion about any of the films? Watching with me.
For the longest time, I was so set on my least favourite Godzilla film being Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla. And, I mean, it's still down the bottom, but that's no longer my least favourite. So I think, in a way, my perspective on that film has changed. There's no films that... the ones that I've enjoyed... the ones that I enjoy most, there's none that I've rewatched them and found that I enjoy them less. But films that I tend to have enjoyed less, I've found that maybe there's some I enjoy a little bit more than I thought, like Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla. I no longer think it's the worst Godzilla film. I do think it's still, whatever. That's not the question. So my perspective on Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla has changed, is what I would say. I've made peace with that movie, I think. And it's alright. It's not great by any means, but it's a little bit fun. It's a little bit shit. It's a little bit fun. Yeah.
Just like us.
Exactly.
A little fun, a little
bit shit.
Just like our show.
Dominic also said that a highlight for him was our pitch for a gritty Austin Powers reboot.
It's true. Yeah, baby.
I still think about that.
Yeah, baby. Yes, baby.
When you see baby, tell her yeah. Next one. So we now have some really nice thoughts from Andrew. Again, there's not a question here, so we'll just say that we really liked your letter. Really saying that you appreciate our take on it, our friendship that comes through in every second of our podcast. Yeah. So again, we really appreciate your letters, and same goes for the letter that we received from Christopher as well. Chris says that it's easy to stroke the ego reading out these, but Chris says, Steven and Ross, you guys have exemplified the very best thing about these films, and that's that they get us talking, laughing, and make us happy. I've enjoyed every episode, and there's always a perspective on these films that I've never considered before. Well, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah. And he says adios.
Adios to you too.
Yeah.
We now have a set of questions from Neha, which we're going to run through. Bing, bang, boom. Yes. First of all, did we see Infinity Wars? What do we think?
Yes, I did. I think scale of ensemble and scale of events aside, there's nothing setting it apart from any other Marvel movie. It's got the same sense of humour, the same tone, the same look. But it was alright.
Yeah, I agree. I liked it enough when I was watching it.
Yeah.
Coming away from the cinema, I was very stricken with the fact that it's part one of an endless series of movies. Yeah. But I did really enjoy it.
And, without getting the spoilers, it's sometimes hard to be invested in. I'll leave it there. I'll leave it there. I'll leave it there because it's still kind of fresh.
Yeah, it's fresh. It's not come out yet, so we don't want to spoil, but I enjoyed watching it. So Neha's also asking about Game of Thrones, which you're not into. It's not your thing. Stephen is not a big golden age of TV guy. He's never going to be. He's not.
I'm not, yeah.
Have you watched The Sopranos? Mad Men? Big Little Lies?
I've seen the first 2 episodes of Big Little Lies.
It's good, isn't it?
And I've caught Mad Men here and there.
Fair. Fair enough.
Don Draper.
I won't.
He's no happy.
He's not. He's not a happy man.
No.
But no, she's asking us my thoughts on sort of the last Game of Thrones and where I think it will go. Now, obviously, again, I don't want to go into spoilers and I don't want to diverge onto Game of Thrones chat. But I think Federal Westeros, I think they're going to dissolve the whole concept of a kingdom. I think that Daenerys, while definitely should be fighting against the White Walkers, will definitely realise that she can't be the queen. There shouldn't be a singular queen. It will fall to a sort of devolved, democratised Westeros where everyone kind of has a say. That's my opinion. I think that ultimately it's kind of an anti-monarchy show and series of books. Wham!
I agree.
And finally from Neha, the last part of our questions was any upcoming movies and TV that we're looking forward to?
Well, she specifically said, like, what do you think of the Venom trailer?
Oh, yeah!
And I think it looks like a long-form Lemmy sketch. It looks like a long-form Lemmy sketch.
Lemmy as Venom would actually be pretty good.
It just looks like
a Glaswegian serious...
It just looks like Tom Hardy is playing at Lemmy. Even like the little hoodie and shit, it looks like Lemmy.
No, this is the thing. Sometimes Tom Hardy becomes very silly when he's doing American accents.
Tom Hardy is always... don't get me wrong, he's a fucking phenomenal actor, but he's never not doing a voice. Like even in Fury Road, he's very funny.
Even in that film where it's all one take and he's a Welshman in a car, he's doing a funny voice. Yeah. It's called like Locke. The Venom trailer, I'm not really into Venom. I don't really read the Venom comics. I think Venom's a cool character because I used to watch the Spider-Man cartoons and things like that. Venom's cool. I personally think that there's no way that you can do Venom in CGI and it will look good.
Sure, yeah.
I think it's inherently very silly, very black tendrils and goo, and the shots of Tom Hardy turning into Venom that you see in the trailer just look really silly.
I'd be inclined to say that maybe you can't do Venom without Spider-Man, without it being a Spider-Man movie.
Yeah, I think that too.
But that's an uninformed opinion. I've never read a Spider-Man comic in my life.
Yeah, I mean, I've not read enough Spider-Man to really get...
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure he's Spider-Man's main bad guy. I mean, he's specifically designed to look like a black, evil Spider-Man.
Is that the Prosecco done, by the way?
No, Stephen. There is certainly a wee bit of a top-up coming along here.
I'll polish that off. So thank you, Neha. William says, what movie were you guys surprised you liked more than you thought you would? And what movie did you like less than you thought you would? We've kind of
we've kind of covered that.
We've covered that, but thank you very much, William.
Yeah.
Belle on Twitter says, can I... here's some questions, yeah. Is Anguirus an absolute unit? Yes.
He is, and we are in awe at the size of him.
He is one of the lesser units of the Godzilla franchise, but a unit nonetheless. How many times does Tokyo Tower get destroyed in the Godzilla franchise? 6. The original film, Mothra vs. Godzilla. You know what? I'm not really tipsy, but you know what? I'm going to use that as an excuse for not knowing off.
Yeah, I'm not going to count those up.
Someone will tell you on
Google
Twitter
it.
or Facebook.
Google it.
And Ross, have you seen a live action Attack
I
on
have
Titan?
not seen the live action nor the anime Attack on Titan.
And, an addendum to that question, does Stephen recommend it? Hell, yes! The live action Attack on Titan films directed by Shinji Higuchi are the best fucking things to ever bear that brand name.
Yeah, so you watched a bit of the anime, but you're not that into it.
They're fucking mental as shit, and they're awesome, and all the Titans are like practical effects and stuff.
That's cool. No, I like that.
They're fucking mental.
I would love to watch that, absolutely.
So thank you, Belle.
So next up we have a set of questions from John M, or just another sort of personal essay, which was really nice to read, and specifically he thanks us with getting him through his dissertation, and being a nice droning voice to listen to while they're working. Yes, we have sympathy always with academics and those writing dissertations. Serious difficulty. So thank you, John. We have another set of letters from Mac. And they thank us for...
Says he's been a long time listener but never submitted. That's fine.
Long time, first time.
Yeah, that's fine.
Bit late,
Kind of missed the mark, Mac. That's a joke, I'm sorry.
We love you, Mac.
Yeah. Says the blog, both the Kaijusaurus blog and podcast were incredibly helpful in shaping the way he thinks about Godzilla and his films, moving away from looking at them as something akin to comic books with versus statistics, and a new appreciation for the films as artistic works. We're a wonderful pair to listen to, and I'd love to listen to another podcast starring the two of us sometime.
Well, you never know.
Welcome to the podcast and the Furious, the podcast in which we watch and discuss all 8 films in the Fast and Furious franchise, including the upcoming Shaw and Hobbs spin-off and Fast 9 and Fast 10.
Can't wait. On that note, though, I have just started watching the Fast and Furious movies. I've done 2. I'm going to skip Tokyo Drift, go on to 4, and then rejoin Tokyo Drift in between 5 and 6 when it canonically takes place.
You're doing the...
I'm doing the canon Fast and Furious watch.
Laura and I watched all the Fast and Furious films over the past few months, and I'm going to say I'm so fucking into those movies. Much like the Godzilla films, much like other people with the Godzilla films, I went into them with such a preconceived notion of what they are or should be or whatever, and I came away fucking loving it. And I think that's akin to many people's experiences with the Godzilla films.
So another letter we want to read through is from a friend of ours, Malcolm. And he joined the show just after the sort of live broadcast. That was his first time watching us. And he'd seen some Godzilla films before, but since watching the show, he's now done 13 of them, up from 2 when he first started listening. So
nice.
Thank us personally for that. But he does say, just thanking us for doing our show, being who we are, and doing our criticism. And he does say, quite rightly, in my opinion, that we are legends of film criticism and that we are to be talked about for years to come.
I couldn't agree more.
Quite right, Malcolm.
And guess who has now just entered the room and made a surprise last episode cameo appearance?
Woo! It's your boy Loz!
It's Laura.
Laura P.
You're just in time to join us for our last question. And our last listener question, maybe ever, comes from Matt Frank, artist on IDW's Godzilla comic books, and author and artist of the upcoming Redman comic series. Matt asks, looking back over the 60 plus years of the franchise, where would you like to see things go? Should things boomerang back to Versus movies, or should Toho keep experimenting with different things? And thanks.
That's a good one. Well, we covered this a little bit in the Godzilla 2014 episode, because they're the ones kind of doing all the fun versus stuff, and the Godzilla versus King Kong, destroy all monsters. So I'm kind of cool for the American films to have fun with that, and for the Japanese films to kind of zero in on original, interesting concepts, new and varied kind of films.
Because we've had Shin in the Japanese franchise, we've had Shin, which is equally massively conventional and massively new and experimental. And then we've had the first ever theatrical animated Godzilla film, and then we've got more coming out.
The kind of Monster Planet stuff is a new concept.
Yeah, exactly. And beyond that, who knows? So I would be inclined to say, keep experimenting, keep doing new things, because that's the only way a franchise and a genre survives, is if you keep doing new things.
You must adapt. You must evolve.
Or, you know what, right now, between Legendary Toho, it's a little bit of a best of both.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That said, I have to be honest with you. I really like the versus stuff. I like the kind of, I don't know, I feel like all films are very serious right now, so I'm always fine for, a little bit of fun.
Yeah.
A little bit of light.
Always a little bit of light. Yeah. No, it's true. No, the versus stuff is still really good.
That's my disagreement, my rebuttal.
Oof. Laura versus Ross versus Steven. The ultimate battle.
Kaijusaurus Podcast, all out attack.
Yeah, we're going to fight. We're going to fight right now, live on air. Whoosh! That was me throwing a punch.
Ross, don't touch me.
I won.
Well, that's that.
That is that, Steven.
Thank you, everyone who submitted. Like I said, even if we didn't read out your thoughts or questions in total on the episode, we'll make sure to reply to each and every one of your messages.
Yeah. Thanks for listening, folks.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks for emailing in. Thanks for messaging. Thanks for sending us stuff, making memes, and making jokes.
I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you to every single person who's ever listened to an episode. If you've listened to one and thought, nah, it's not for me, or if you've been with us from the start and listened to them all, thank you. Yeah. Because we wouldn't be here if you hadn't. Same. Yeah. For something that we do in our spare time, we are not professional podcasters. It feels like every podcast I listen to now, the people are all have no other job but podcasting. Yeah, if you figure out how to do that, let me know. Go for it. Yeah, I'm in. So Ross, what's next for you? Just keep on keeping on, doing cool stuff. No, I'm just
got a wedding coming up, which I know you guys do as well.
Certainly do.
We are both going to get married in this year, or well, this year and next year, which will be very
Yep.
exciting. I've got no immediate plans for new and exciting creative content, but there are things on the horizon, there are things on my mind, and should I put anything into action, you'll be the first to hear about it, and we'll make sure to use the Facebook and use the feed. So again, please don't cut us out of the feed. Stay on and stay subscribed, because if more episodes come, if more information comes, we will be putting
That's
stuff
where it'll
on
be.
there.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So if I had come up with cool ideas, you'll be hearing about them. Don't you worry. Steven, do you have anything lined up?
Well, I'm getting married as well.
Interesting.
Next year. Yeah, we're getting married.
Yeah.
Which I honestly can't wait for. And
Oh, amazing.
Ross, you're the best man. You are the best man.
I am the best man.
Yeah.
That's funny, Steven, because you're also the best man for my wedding.
We are the best men.
We are the best men.
You
the best
are-
men cast. The best
I
cast.
feel very left out right now.
You are the best man.
I'm a
You're
pretty
my
good.
best
I'm a
man.
pretty good.
Truly honest with you, if Stephen didn't ask you to be the best man, you would have definitely been the maid of honor.
Yeah, no, I would have really. I actually would have
You were in the
preferred to be
limelight.
the maid of honor. Can we fix that?
No.
Other than that, creative projects wise or whatever, over the past few months I've been sort of workshopping an idea I've had for an audio drama or a radio drama, however you want to call it, because I think it's sort of a natural progression from this. I think it'd be a good idea to have. It's something I've wanted to have a go at for ages. So I am in the early stages of adapting a story treatment by the writer Anthony Schaefer called The Loathsome Lambton Worm, which was written in the late 80s as a direct sequel to one of my favourite films, The Wicker Man. So that's what I'm currently, I've not got any set date for it or anything, but that's what I'm currently having a go at.
You're pushing that on.
An audio drama, The Loathsome Lambton Worm, a totally corrupt sequel to The Wicker Man.
That would be really cool.
Yeah.
And we will be very much looking forward to hearing that when it's good and ready. Not a second earlier.
Well, I guess it's time for final.
Final remarks.
Yeah.
Final goodbyes. Do you have any prepared final remarks, Stephen?
Nothing greatly prepared, but just things I'd like to express.
Please do.
Really, and things I'd like to say. When you first suggested doing this podcast, when you first suggested it to me, it was your idea.
That's right.
Back in the summer of 2015. I was honestly skeptical we'd even record a pilot episode. And then when we got past the pilot, I thought we'd maybe manage one or two more. And here we are, nearly 3 years later, recording our final and overall 40th
Wow.
episode.
Fuck me.
I will not.
40 hours of quality content.
As people listening to this know, and as you both know, I got into Godzilla and Kaiju movies back in 2000 at the age of 7. Since then, I've only ever properly shared them with two people. My dad and my girlfriend turned fiancée. But I've never really had the opportunity to properly share them with a friend. And that's what you've allowed me to do with this. And I've loved every second of it, honestly. While we technically may not be covering every single Godzilla film as we outlined in our episode briefs at the start of each show, I think we're leaving the podcast in a great place, because Godzilla and Kaiju cinema in general is in the best place it's been in decades.
And we are directly responsible.
We're directly responsible. We're seeing an unprecedented number of new and high-profile original Kaiju films in what's proving to be an exciting new period, which is seeing the genre take on a broader and more international definition. As we speak, as we touched on earlier, there's no less than 4 upcoming Godzilla films to look forward to. And we're leaving the series in this amazing, incredible new era of exploration and experimentation. And that, to me and to you, and I think the majority of our listeners, that can only be a good thing. Longtime Godzilla series producer Tomoyuki Tanaka once said, "As long as the arrogance of human beings exists, Godzilla will survive." I'd like to end the podcast on a more upbeat note, but along the same lines, and say, for as long as cinema exists, whatever form it takes, Godzilla will survive. I absolutely believe that. because Godzilla has outlasted many other franchises and characters and will continue to for years, decades, maybe even centuries more. Godzilla may sleep or go away for a while or quote-unquote retire, but he'll always return because, as we all know, Godzilla is never really dead.
That was quite nice, Stephen. Quite profound.
Thank you.
Did you shed a tear, dear listener? Because I sure did. But no, that was really nice, Stephen. I did not. Stephen asked me, well, Stephen said, look, I've prepared remarks. It would be good if you prepared some remarks as well. And true to form, I said that I would and then didn't. But I have some short remarks now, to quote the Beatles. And in the end, the love you take is equal to the love you make. Goodbye, folks.
This is, as it has been,
and always will,
shall be, the Kaijusaurus Podcast.
In which
a lifelong fan of kaiju movies
and a brand newbie
watches and reviews all the films
in the 30 plus
Godzilla series. I have been Steven Sloss.
Twitter
at Steven Scrivello.
And I have been Roz Menzies.
Twitter
at Roz Menzo, Menzo.
And Laura Pentecost also.
I'm also here. My handle is at Kaijusaurus.
This is the Kaijusaurus Podcast crew saying, we did as we pleased. You do the same.
Now fuck off! Sorry, I mean, have a good night.
Have a good night. Enjoy Godzilla. Enjoy kaiju films. Enjoy this wonderful new resurgence we're experiencing. And we will see you in the future.
Amen.
Cheers.
Cheers.